Session today is hosted by Tutor.com, a service of the Princeton Review. My name is Lauren Lobdell. I lead the client services team at Tutor.com, and we are very excited to be presenting this topic again for all of you today. We actually hosted the Student Success webinar series over the summer and found it was very popular. Obviously, this year, there's a lot of new challenges facing students that we have not experienced before, and so as a support service, Tutor.com, day in, day out, we provide tutoring to help students in that moment of need, and we decided to put these webinars on to really help you with different things that are affecting your ability to be successful and be organized. So this session is really exciting because everybody wants to set goals, but you have to make goals manageable and be able to make decisions that help you get to your goals. So I'm going to be here moderating the session, and at the end of the session, after Amy's gotten through the content, we're going to do a live Q&A for about 20 minutes. So if you have really good questions you want to ask at that time, that's a great time for us to address those. And again, you'll put those in the question box. But the real presenter today is going to be Dr. Amy Dietzman, who is our Learning and Design Manager. She hosts all of these student success workshops for us. She's really strong in these areas and has helped us even develop tutoring subjects that help students with these kinds of topics that are not necessarily your math problems and your writing assignments, but really those soft skills that help you to be more successful. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Amy. She's going to present on the topic for about 30 minutes or so, and then again, we'll stay for Q&A for about 20 minutes if you have time to stay with us and listen in on that part of the session. So thanks again, and Amy, take it away.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, I hope many of you have attended my previous webinar, so you know a little bit about me. My name is Amy Dietzman, and I have been both a high school teacher and a college professor. And I teach education psychology classes now for Arizona State University, and then I also work full-time for Tutor.com. I love talking about student success, and this topic is really important for students because if you don't have a goal for yourself, it's hard to persist, especially in this day and age with so many distractions. It's so easy to give up. So today we're going to talk about goal setting and how you really do it. We are also going to talk quite a bit about how habits and decisions lead to attaining your goals. So why do we set goals? Well, goals increase our motivation as long as they are well within our reach and we believe in our ability to attain them. Goals give us focus and purpose. Setting goals determines a clear pathway to success. Goals, when they are good, can prevent us from becoming overwhelmed, frustrated, or discouraged. Reaching toward our goals lessens our feelings of being disheartened and encourage us to spend time on activities that contribute to our goals. If any of you have been in a place where you're feeling discouraged, maybe you've been in a dead-end job and you felt like you're stuck, then you know what it feels like when you don't see the clear path to something better. And goals can help you create that path. Goals also boost self-confidence. When you start making progress toward achieving your goals, it's a big confidence boost, and you can continue to set even more ambitious goals. Goals help you to measure your progress. Seeing how far you've come and how much is left to do motivates you to continue working. And goals provide a challenge. To me, there is nothing worse than having no challenge in life and just phoning it in every day. One task to the next, nothing's exciting, and I'm not feeling a sense of accomplishment. That's why goals are important for everyone. Every January, we hear about New Year's resolutions. Some people get all motivated to reach a new goal, and the research says that by the second week in February, 80% of people have given up. Why is that? Well, it's because New Year's resolutions are generally not specific enough, and they are often too grand. Remember that if you can't see the progress toward your goal, then it becomes discouraging and overwhelming, which is not what you want. One best practice for setting goals is to know your priorities. What really matters to you? And also make sure you've clearly identified why you want this goal. Is it really what you want? And do you know exactly why you feel it's so important? Accept that big goals, like getting a degree, for example, or working hard to achieve a promotion, require sacrifices. And if you don't accept that up front, then you'll easily give up when the going gets tough. Know exactly what is required to achieve your goal. I can tell you how many doctoral students I have worked with, so many, over the years, who thought that getting a doctorate would take only about 2.5 to 3 years. Well, it doesn't take 2.5 to 3 years. It takes a lot longer. And they are so surprised and disheartened when they realize how hard it is and how much self-discipline it takes. If you're going to commit to something, know how much time it's going to take. Know what it's going to cost. Know what you're requiring from yourself and from your family. Which leads me to gathering your support team. Get your family and friends on board and let them know that you're going to need them to cheer you on. Write your goals down. If they are in your head, you're more likely to manipulate them as you go. Writing them down makes them concrete. And don't forget to put that goal in a place where you will see it and be motivated by it. Be flexible with yourself. When I was in college, I wanted to work for a news station. For my first 3 years of college, I was pretty laser focused. And then I got a dream internship at the beginning of my senior year for the best news station in my city. I was so excited. I went to work for a semester and then realized that I didn't like it at all. Well, I had to set a new goal. Know that if life changes, you might have to adjust your goals. Mentally prepare yourself to meet your goals. Ensure that you actually feel motivated by them. If you write your goal down and you feel nothing but dread, then think about it again. And don't forget to reevaluate often. Look at the goal, make sure it's still relevant and meaningful to you, and make sure that you're still making progress. So with all that said, this is how you write a goal. SMART goal setting is a proven method for setting goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So let's dig in a little bit to what each of these means. Specific. I want to lose weight is not specific, but I want to lose 10 pounds is. I'm going to start going to the gym isn't specific at all, but I will go to the gym 2 nights a week and once on the weekend for the next 8 weeks. Well, that's specific. And you know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And you can also measure it. Measurable means that it's something you can look at and know that you met it. So I'm going to get good grades isn't measurable because what is good? You can manipulate this any way you want and settle for something that isn't what you really intended. But I am going to get 3 A's and 2 B's this semester. Or I'm going to get at least 90% on every biology test this semester. Well, these goals are specific and measurable. I will definitely know if I met my goal. And goals need to be attainable. So this is a true story. I had a student write this goal in my class. I am going to become a millionaire, move to San Diego, and buy a Lamborghini. Now, is that attainable? Well, I mean, it might be. I hope so for his sake, but it is really a dream and less of a goal. And it's good to dream. Everyone should have dreams. But then you set your goals as stepping stones to get to your dream. So maybe he could start with something more like this. After graduation, I will find an entry-level tech job in San Diego. So he's moving. He's getting his first job. It's not going to be easy. San Diego is very expensive, and getting a first job in tech can be very challenging, but it is attainable, and it's a step toward that big dream he has. Your goals have to be relevant to your life goals. So the mom in this picture is saying, I will move to Timbuktu where I will start my own nonprofit education company. And her husband is like, wait a second here, you've got 2 kids and this is not exactly in line with what we set out to do as a family. So how about if she rewrites this to something more like, I will find a job working in the nonprofit education space in my hometown. That's not to say that her original goal isn't a good dream. It might be, but it's also not relevant to her life at the moment. Relevance makes a lot of sense when you set SMART goals for your workplace. So if any of you have ever had to write a SMART goal for work, sometimes it's not very fun, not as fun as when you're writing it for your personal life. But for example, if your boss asked you to set a SMART goal and you work in the HR department at your office, you're not going to set a sales goal. It's not relevant to your job. So when I was a teacher, I had to set SMART goals every year that were related to my students' learning. And I was an English teacher, so I was not going to set a goal about my students learning Spanish. So relevance means being relevant to your job, or for personal goals, think of it as being aligned to your life goals, your family, your health, etc. And your goals need to be time-bound. This means that you've set a goal and you've given yourself a time limit to reach it. It's not just that you're going to graduate from college, but you're going to graduate from college with a degree in HR management in May of 2022. It's not that you're just going to lose 10 pounds, but you're going to lose 10 pounds by September 30th. I hope you're not going to lose 10 pounds by September 30th, because that seems like a lot of weight in a short amount of time. But if you've given your goal an end date, it's more motivating if it's just out there for you to achieve one day. You know, if you just say like, I'm just going to graduate from college, well, when? And before you know it, 10 years have gone by. So if you have a big goal like the college one, and you know it's going to take you 4 years to get there, consider little checkpoints along the way, because that's a really big goal and you might find that it seems really far away. So when I started a degree program, I would print out the list of courses I needed to take, and then I would put the dates next to each course. And I posted that up on the board right next to my desk. And each time I finished a class, I would cross off that course on my list. And it was just a visual reminder that I was getting closer. Each class was a checkpoint toward my big goal that I had for myself to finish my degree. So my son is in college now, and we've done the same thing for him. We took a huge list of gen ed classes that he had to take, and we color-coded each one by semester. Together, he and I go through and we mark off the courses as he completes them when we register for a new semester. And it is as motivating to him as it was to me, because he's only a sophomore, but he's already been able to look at that list and say like, wow, Mom, look how much I've already done. So here are some good examples of SMART goals written to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. I will take 2 classes a semester, pass all of the general CLEP exams, and use my military experience credits to earn my associate degree in liberal arts by next December. It's a mouthful, but it's very specific. It's measurable. There's a time there. This person can do this. I will follow my training and nutrition plan for the next 3 months so I can complete the hot chocolate half marathon on November 30th in less than 3 hours. Again, very specific, measurable, there's a time, it's attainable. And this last one is I will study 2 hours a day for the next month to prepare for the SAT exam that I am scheduled to take on April 10th. So now I hope you see it all put together, all these SMART goals. So you're going to leave this webinar and you're going to go write your SMART goal. Then what? Well, then you want to set yourself up for success. So I loved to hike when I lived in Arizona. And in the winter, this was the best thing to do. But as soon as March hit, the rattlesnakes would come out and hit the trails. And I am definitely afraid of rattlesnakes, so I needed to find something else to do. So I decided one year, I just want to be a runner. So I found this running plan on Pinterest. That's the picture on the left. And it would take me 8 weeks to work up to a 30-minute run. It required these walk-run intervals. So I got myself a timer app, that's the picture on the right, that I could set for my intervals. And it would beep to let me know each time I needed to switch from walking to running. I set myself up for a plan and the tools to be successful. So here's some other apps you might want to look into. There is an app for tracking your goals. Well, there's an app for everything. And there's a lot of apps actually for tracking goals and habits. Here are two that I found really helpful: Strides and Habitable. Both allow you to set goals, big or small, and track your success. These are great for all kinds of goals, so I encourage you to look into these. So this leads us into the habit talk, talking about changing our habits. Goal setting usually requires some degree of change in our behavior. So we need to get rid of bad habits and perhaps replace them with something better. It's easier to replace a habit than to get rid of it completely. So figure out what habit you want to replace. Figure out what triggers get you into that habit. Do you get bored? Do you get hungry? Are you tired? Are you depressed? Then figure out what reward drives that behavior. For example, let's just say you get hungry every day at 3 and you reach for chocolate. Then you might want to replace that behavior with another one that delivers the same reward. So let's just put yourself in an office scenario. If you can work in an office again one day, or if you do right now, let's say you go and you get your chocolate at 3 o'clock in the break room at your office. And every time you go into that break room at 3 o'clock, you run into a colleague or two and you really enjoy talking to them. Well, the reward might actually be the break time and the fact that you get to meet up with your friends and have a social experience. So you could still replace the chocolate with something healthy. Or you could plan to go for a walk every day at 3 with your friends rather than grabbing a chocolate bar. Or you could walk down to the coffee shop and grab a cup of coffee with those friends rather than eating the sugary snack. So you have to stop and just figure out what the reward really is and how it makes you feel. It's all about how you feel. And then you replace that with something else rewarding that will make you feel equally as good. And remember to give yourself 66 days to get into a new habit, as that is how long on average it takes to actually form a new habit. So creating new habits is all about starting simple and small. You don't want to try to change everything about your day all at once. Start with one small habit that you want to replace and go easy on yourself when you slip up. Always take note of why you missed your habit. That may be a trigger, and your triggers have to be identified in order to address the reason that you have a bad habit in the first place. So for example, if you feel the need to drink every time you talk to your parents on the phone, well then you know that the conversation with your parents is your trigger. Plan accordingly. Don't always rely on willpower because we all have weak moments. For example, if your new habit is to eat healthy snacks, then keep unhealthy snacks out of your home so that you will be less likely to give in to temptation when your willpower is weak. If your new habit is to replace studying with your usual, let's say, video game time, you might need to move the video game console out of the room during the week. Also think about how you can set a cue for that new habit. Cue is really important. So rather than saying to yourself, I would like to replace my video game time with study time, think about a cue that you can set up for yourself like this. Every night when I finish cleaning up my dinner, I will start my dishwasher, make myself a cup of tea, and then I will walk into my spare bedroom to begin studying. Starting the dishwasher and making the cup of tea are the cues. So I think of them as your transitions. They are transitioning you into your new habit, which is now going to be studying. Make these new also, new cues. If you always start the dishwasher and grab a cup of coffee, you've always done that, and then you just went and played video games, well, then that cue is the wrong one because that's your transition to doing something you don't want to do anymore. You need to do something different. So we talked about goals and we talked about habits. So now let's talk about decisions. It's all connected because decisions lead to your goal attainment and decisions help you make new habits. It's nearly impossible to reach your goals if you don't have good decision-making capabilities. First of all, cut down on needless decision-making by jotting down your top priorities for the day and ensuring that you tackle those first. This way, your most important decisions get done when your energy and willpower is at its highest. In order to make as many decisions as you can at the beginning of the day, try packing your lunch or throwing your dinner in the crock pot, laying out clothes you need to put on for your kids' soccer practice later. Just all those little things that they don't seem like they're that important, but they add up throughout the day. Get them done early. So when the end of the day comes around and you're getting tired, you don't have to think as much. And limit decisions as much as you can. Because there's a phenomenon called ego depletion. There is a limit to how many decisions you can make effectively over the course of a day. As you make more and more choices, your brain will start to look for shortcuts, which can result in impulsive decision making on the one hand, or the failure to make decisions on the other. You probably know exactly what you do. Procrastination, so many of us do that, and that's when we say something like, oh, I'll just tackle this later. Impulsivity, I don't know what to do, oh, I'll just do this. Or avoidance, I can't deal with this right now. Or indecision, I just can't make up my mind. So relying on good habits and routines is one way to conserve your willpower and limit your decisions. Spending the least possible effort making choices about things that aren't priorities is another. And when you do have a big decision to make, be sure you make it when you are well fed and rested. So when you're a student and you're working, maybe you're raising children, maybe you're taking care of a parent, whatever's going on in your life, I know it's more than one thing. And you know you have a lot of choices to make over the span of your day, like when to study, when to finish that report for your boss, what to write your paper about, when to go to the gym, what to eat for dinner, when to grocery shop, when to hang out with your friend who keeps texting you. Make the little decisions easier on yourself. And you do that by maintaining routines, so the constant decision making is done ahead of time. It is so much easier to stay on course when all you have to do is look at your list or look at your calendar and complete what is right there already decided for you. Like I told you before about the dishwasher, the tea, and the studying. Take the decision out of that equation. That decision was already made. You study after dinner and it becomes your routine. Even if you don't have an assignment to work on and you're all caught up in all of your classes, stick to your routine anyway and check your email or make sure you don't have any messages from an instructor. Check your grades or work ahead and then reward yourself with a video game because you're on track. This also means having strict and clear rules about certain things such as when you go to sleep, specific days you hit the gym, going grocery shopping, and meal planning. Meal plan once a week. Pack your gym bag and leave it in your car. One thing I started way back before everyone was doing this was grocery delivery. It was like no one was doing it when I first started doing it. And I'd started when I was a student. I would meal plan and order groceries on Sundays, and that was a huge time saver for me. I know of people who run to the grocery store every few days. Try not to do that if you can avoid it because it's just another thing you have to make a decision about. And here's where the overlap is between what we talked about in the time management webinar. The best way to set yourself up for success is to get into a routine, schedule yourself, take decisions out of the equation if you can, and just make a decision once. Set your study schedule and map out exactly what you're going to do each day of the week at the beginning of the week. You're more likely to complete something that is difficult or less enticing when there are no unknowns and no decisions to be made. Lastly, when you're thinking about setting goals, don't underestimate the power of music to motivate and inspire you. So when I was writing my dissertation, I had a theme song. It's silly, but it was Roar by Katy Perry. And I blasted that song all the time right before I sat down for like a major dissertation writing session. And it helped to get me motivated. Music is a powerful tool. So I encourage you to get a theme song that gets you excited and motivates you. So how do you actually achieve the goals that you wrote for yourself? Well, first, you have to believe in yourself. Then you accept responsibility for your goals. Know that you have the power to achieve them, and only you. When you get off track, you get right back on. You skip the excuses. Excuses don't help. Just identify what the problem was and move forward. Think positive thoughts and envision yourself at the finish line. Do you know how many times I played pomp and circumstance in my head and imagined how I would look in that cap and gown? Do it. See yourself there. Think about what that degree or that certificate or that test score is going to do for you in your life. Don't get too caught up in the journey and the stress or the sacrifice without thinking about the finish line. So let's go back and tie all of this together. Setting goals means you start smart. Get some apps to help you track your goals and set you up for success. Change your bad habits and start new ones that help you get to your goal. Limit your decisions throughout your day so you have the energy to focus on what is important, and that's your family, your work, your school, and your health. Find your theme song that motivates you to reach your goal, and always envision your success. Picture yourself in that cap and gown or sitting in that corner office. Here's references for what I just came up with. Some of it came out of my own head and some of it didn't. Next week, I am going to talk about study skills. So how do you take good notes? How do you study for a big test? What kind of schedule should you develop for studying? I'm going to talk about all of that and more. And back to Lauren.
Thanks, Amy. That was great, as always. So I hope that it was helpful to some of you to start thinking about the questions that you might have around decision making and goal setting and some of these great tips that Amy just went through. If some of you have to jump off, let me just say thank you for attending. If you have questions, you can feel free to email us those questions after the session. We will be putting out a recording of the content of the session tomorrow, so you'll get a follow-up email with the recorded session. We also post it to our YouTube channel. So if you take down some of these URLs that you see here, the youtube.com/tutor.com, that's our YouTube channel. We post all of our webinars on those channels, so you would be able to see all the recordings in case you don't get the email tomorrow, but you all should, since you're here and registrants are getting a copy. We also did include a handout of the material that Amy just covered here in the deck. It should be attached to your control panel if any of you want to download that before you leave the session. In general, we just encourage you all to make sure that you follow Tutor.com on social media like you see up on the screen. We post a lot of information about these kinds of events that we're hosting, so it's a good place to find that we're hosting live events, that we're recording, and we also make sure we share them with all of our partners that offer Tutor.com to those of you who have access. Another thing that's really important to note is we do have tutors that help in a lot of these topics that Amy's covering. So study skills, goal setting, taking notes, different things that students need help with just to get themselves a little bit more prepared and organized. We have tutors through the Tutor.com services that we provide to our libraries, to our military families, to corporations that offer Tutor.com as a benefit. I'm assuming many of you on this call do have access to Tutor.com, and you heard about the webinar from the partner organization that offers Tutor.com. So just remember that in addition to these webinars, there are tutors on call who can help students whenever they need help with these kinds of things, as well as their academics. If you're stuck on a homework problem, or you're writing a paper, or you don't know how to do a science problem. So definitely try to take advantage of that, especially if some of you have maybe never sat down with your kids, or you are a student and you're in high school or college and you've never tried the service. It's a great tool for you to keep moving forward and feel like you have extra help. So with that kind of said, we're going to now turn and do Q&A. So if any of you have questions, please, go ahead and start populating them in the question box, and I'm going to ask Amy some of the questions that you have on this topic. So Amy, this one is a little specific, but I'm going to try to make it kind of a little bit broader for for more people on the call, but it's really about a parent who's trying to balance not only their own decision making and goal setting, but also having to do that on behalf of their children and really get organized around that. I know you cover a lot of that in various sessions here, but do you have any tips as relates specifically to parents in trying to help your kids really set goals for themselves, short term, maybe longer term?
Sure. So it kind of depends on your kids' ages. So, younger kids are going to have a hard time kind of seeing the big picture. Older kids are a little bit easier to talk to when it comes to these things. I always ask my kids to start with what's important to you. What are your priorities? We kind of start there, and then we talk about their goals and how they're going to get there. I don't actually have my kids sit down and write SMART goals because I think they would hate me. But there is something to be said about having conversations around these kinds of things, especially if you have kids who are, in high school and they're looking towards college and they're starting to think about that. Which also, let me just say that don't have any expectations that your kids are going to be thinking about college the way you think they should at this day and age. I have a lot of friends who have teenage kids who just can't really think about that right now with the way the world is. And I also have two sons who literally did not think about college until, like 17 years old. I actually have a 16-year-old. He's just starting to barely think about it, but his brother didn't even think about it till senior year. So I think I have a lot of friends who are like, why are my kids, why don't they have those goals? And they just might not, especially if they're boys. It just might not have that yet. But anyways, I think the best thing to do is have conversations with your kids about what's important. If you write SMART goals and you have goals for your life, there is nothing better than being a model to your kids and showing them that. So if you're a student and you have a goal to graduate in 2022 and you're going to do these things to get there, tell your kids about it, share it with them, show them what you've written down, and let them be a witness to your motivation, and that will help them. It's better than trying to make them do something they're not ready to do.
Awesome. Next one, can you review the topic of setting new cues again? Are there little things to associate with your new habit?
Yes. So a cue is like your transition to your new habit. So if it's related to studying, you just have something that you do every day. And I say every day, I know that sometimes you're going to have days where you can't do things or your work schedule might be different. And so maybe on Tuesday, Thursday, you don't study because you work nights or whatever it might be. But let's just go with the every day. So every day you set a new cue, which is some kind of transition that transitions you into your new study habit, whatever that might be. And that might be, I read one where someone says they just literally picked up their laptop and walked outside and sat down, on their porch. And that was their cue. Now I'm studying. But what it is just something different that you haven't done before that is going to transition you into doing this new thing that's healthy and better for you. And however you want to do that. I always, when I would get up in the morning, because I was a morning person and I did all my studying in the morning really early, my cue was I got up, I went downstairs and I made myself a cup of coffee, and then I took my coffee straight to my computer and sat down. That was just my cue. I did that. And when I wasn't studying, I didn't do that. I didn't go sit down at my computer first thing in the morning. I grabbed my coffee and maybe turned on the TV. Well, I didn't do that anymore. So see, my cue changed a little bit. It's just something transitioning you. Simple can be so simple, but it's just enough that your brain goes, oh, okay, I'm going to go do this now.
Great. Next one is, in goal setting, how do I know the goal I set will be the right one for the outcome I need? Do you have any tips on that?
Ooh, that's good.
Broad tips. Obviously, that's like you could get very specific there, but.
Yeah, I think your goal may not be right at first. You might write a goal and you might that's why I said you have to reevaluate often. So the best thing to do is sit down and be honest with yourself. Where do you see yourself? What is it that you really want out of your life? Go to those big moments first and then drill down a little bit into how are you going to get there? So you might start with a bigger goal, which is, something as big as getting a degree, right? Or maybe your long-term goal is you want to get a promotion or you want a certain job. And then that one goal that's going to lead you there is the degree, right? And then you go back a little step back even further. Okay, so what do you need to do to get that degree? What classes do you need to take to get that degree? Or what adjustments do you need to make in your life to get that degree? And then the degree is going to lead you towards the ultimate goal, right, of that job or something like that. But if you set a goal and you kind of sit in it for a week or two, or maybe a month or two, and you start realizing that it's not motivating you, you're not heading down that path, the path switched a little bit, or something else is more interesting, then you change it. And that's okay. You don't have to, there's no rule that you have to keep the same goal for years. You can change it. And another thing you can do is share it with family and friends, people that you trust, that you rely on, mentors that you might have in your life, somebody who has that job you want. Maybe you go to them and you say, hey, I want the job you have. Here's the goal I set for myself. What do you think about it? Does this sound right to you? Do you think it's realistic? And get some advice. And then, like I said, always write it down, put it up somewhere, see if it's motivating you, look at it regularly, and make adjustments when you have to.
Great. The next one is about taking big goals and making them into smaller, achievable goals. I always think this one is really important as I think about my own goal setting, because things can seem really insurmountable when you make goals too big, right? Like, how am I going to climb that ladder to get from step A to step B? So, so I know we even do this in our tutoring sessions where it's like student comes in and says, I can't do math. Well, okay, let's take that down a step, right? Well, let's try one problem of math. Let's dive into one topic of math. Let's go one step of math. So I think that's kind of a strategy that I've used a lot, is like really thinking about like, how can I get a small step towards that goal and then have a victory. The sense of victory is going to help you feel like you can keep on the path rather than have it be overwhelming. But certainly, Amy, you have way better tips than what I'm thinking about. So can you maybe give a few other brainstorms on that?
Oh, I think that was what you just said was great. Yeah, part of goal setting is some people can be motivated by big, lofty goals that are, months in advance, years in advance, and they just keep trucking along. But most of us don't do it that way. Most of us need to have small victories. Most of us need to reach the goal and reset, and reach a goal and reset. And so that's the same way. That's why I tell you to make lists. When you have a lot of stuff to do, make a list, because guess what? You're going to feel motivated when you start to cross stuff off your list. You see your list getting smaller. You see you're making gains, right? So the same thing with goals. I definitely say, like I just said before, sit down and think about where do you see yourself? Maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now. I don't know. Where do you see yourself? And then drill back, take steps back. How do I get there? How do I get there? How do I get there? Little things. And so like I told you for my son, right now at age 19, the thought of finishing school is a lot for him. It seems like it's a long way off, and he's eager to get out in the world and, go for it. And so we're kind of looking at, let's talk about priorities, which we talk about a lot. And then we do the little check off and we mark off the classes as he finishes them. And that helps him feel success. So he didn't write a SMART goal because he's 19 and he would laugh at me if I told him to, but I mean the same kind of thing. It's like, yes, look at what is going to motivate you? What can you get to in the next short while? And then see if that motivates you to make a little bit bigger goal and a little bit bigger goal, and just grow from there.
Here's a big thing and this is a big question, but I'm going to put it out there just to sort of help us think about it. But this example is the individual is moving out of state, and it's going to be a monthly transition to make that move, and also at the same time trying to handle studies and goals. And so if you've set these big goals for yourself and then life circumstances start to change, right? Like, none of us prepared for the fact that we would have a pandemic this year and we would all have to go into our homes or accommodate for not having normal life. So any tips on how you can make sure that you don't lose track of those goals, but also not get overwhelmed by it because of the unexpected?
Whew, that's really good. That's tough. I just a few years ago moved across the country with a family and a dog. So I know how huge it is and it's stressful and it is easy to get sidetracked and focused on little things. I didn't do it as a student, so I can say that I can't relate to trying to study at the same time, but I did have a brand new job and I started working in my job before I moved. So I had to go through all of that. And it wasn't with Tutor.com, it was before that. But anyways, long story short is I think that it's okay, again, to kind of put the brakes on your goal and focus on what little things lead there. And maybe, you know, I don't know why you're moving. Maybe you're moving because you're getting closer to your goal. So that could be good. Whatever it is I think that the best thing to do is give yourself some grace, give yourself, you know, be patient with yourself, knowing that, you know, there's only so many things we can do in a day, and there's only so many things we can focus on in a day. And so, yes, the studies, you know, might take a back burner for a few weeks. You might have some adjustments to make, and then you have to get yourself back into your routine. Your routine is going to be different. You're in a new place. And so all the routine is so important, but you're going to not have a routine for a bit. And then you're going to have to get yourself back into it, get that goal back up on the wall, wherever you have it that's motivating you, and start over again. But know that you're not perfect, and that it's okay to get a little sidetracked for a little bit when it's something as big as moving. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really important, is give yourself a little grace, right? Hopefully we're learning that as a lesson generally right now, that
Yes.
we have to give all of us a little bit of grace here, including yourself. It doesn't mean your goal's going away. It just means you might have to focus on some other goals, short-term goals, for a little while. So,
Yep.
okay, we still have a few more questions. Again, you know, we're going to stay on for a little while and keep answering these. If they're of interest, we're happy to have you and keep them coming. Okay, so one of them was kind of addressed in your last answer, kind of around getting sidetracked, but would you say, as you think about it, just like making sure you commit to that routine is one of the best strategies for not getting sidetracked?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's easy to get sidetracked with life, and like when I was a student, I had two new jobs while I was a student. I went from being a teacher to then working at the district office, and then I ended up working in higher ed. So I had two job changes while writing my dissertation. Okay, so I was a doctoral student, which is so stressful. And so it was easy to get sidetracked, but I didn't get out of my routine. My routine through that whole entire time, transitioning jobs, all of that, my routine was still to get up early every day, every single day, and to study. So my routine stayed. And so your routine you have to keep it. Things are going to happen in life, and you might find, like right now, especially, I know parents are dealing with their kids at home, and maybe their study time used to be at a certain time of the day that is now, you know, there's a lot of chaos going on in the house at that time. So you might need to change it. But the fact is, staying on a routine and making sure that you set those cues for yourself and you have good habits, that is how you keep going. You keep going towards that goal.
Okay, I'm going to take two more questions and then we're going to wrap up for today. I think this is a really interesting goal, or question rather. So it is, what if you can't figure out if the goal is yours or the goal your parents or someone else has for you and you had to follow it?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I think the first question to ask you is it, when you look at that goal, do you feel dread or do you feel excitement? Do you feel motivated by it or do you feel demotivated by it? And I think that is huge right there. That's a pretty good sign that it's probably not your goal, which doesn't mean that it's not still a good goal. I mean, like I just said about, I have a 19-year-old son who's not in love with being a college student. He's probably went to college mostly because I said, you're going to college. And but we've talked a lot about his priorities, and his priorities in life and what he wants to do in life always comes back to, okay, well, you need a degree for that. So even though he may not think he's doing what he really wants to do, we have to remind ourselves, why are we doing this? And so that can help too. But yeah, I think, it has to be in line with where you see yourself, and if it excites you, if it motivates you, if you feel like it's going to get you where you want to go. That's the only way to know. And unfortunately, a lot of times we do things for our family or our parents. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily wrong to do something for your family or parents, but if you keep having setbacks because you're just not interested in it, well, then that's probably not your best goal.
That is interesting, though, because there are outside forces that want to have goals that maybe intersect with ours and maybe don't. Right? The example of your son, where your goal for your kids is to go to college, right? But their goal might need to be beyond college, with the college step being something they have to do along the path to get to their personal goal. So
Right.
it's like they're intersecting, but not quite. The end state isn't exactly the same.
It's true. So just be honest with yourself. What do you want? What are your priorities? And then try to decide, are you getting there by doing this thing, this goal?
Okay, one more question, and then we are going to have to wrap for today, but we hope you will join us again for our sessions next week. And again, everything gets recorded and put up on our YouTube channel that you see on the screen. If you want to go take a look at some of the ones we ran over the summer, we have a lot of offerings out there on YouTube. So I think the last question here that I think would be good for everyone is, how do you stay on track when the process has plateaued? So you have a goal and then you just kind of get stuck at that plateau for a while, and you have to figure out how to get back on track towards the goal.
Good question. And here's the thing. I went to school and I got 3 degrees. I'm not going to get any more degrees. That's enough. And so, education wise, I'm kind of done there. So I'm not really setting education goals for myself anymore, but I could be setting goals for my career. I could be setting goals for my health. I could be setting goals for, some kind of family goals, things that we want to achieve as a family, places we want to go, who knows? But I think sometimes, if you're at a plateau, there's one thing to be at a plateau and say, hey, I'm here, I'm good. There's another thing to feel like you're stuck. And if you feel like you're stuck, well, then your goals may need to change and you may need to set new ones and find a different path. But if you feel like I've done all I want to do here, well, then find other goals that excite you. And it might be nothing related to this. You might just be excited to train for a marathon. You might be excited to, look for a new house. You might be excited to, I don't know, little things, go on a trip somewhere. Maybe there's goals you can set like that. They don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to get a degree or I'm going to get a new job. It doesn't have to be that. And you can excite yourself doing those things. So my goals for my life have changed over the years, obviously. But that doesn't mean that I don't still have goals. I'm not still excited about doing things in my life. So I think I wish I knew exactly what was going on, because I would love to, I'm not a counselor, but I feel like I could counsel, why do you feel like you're at a plateau and what do you want? And I think that's where you have to be honest with yourself and then look at it and say, hey, maybe I'm okay here, but I want to reach for something over here.
Thank you again, everyone, for attending. Amy, thank you as always for your great presentation, and have a great rest of the day.